Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Coffee with Developers. Our guest today has been a software developer for the past 17 years. He is very much into modern web development. He has published a book about Typescript. He has also published a book about front-end tooling, very interesting. And he's a regular conference speaker at various events. He also hosts the events himself. He publishes articles on the Smashing magazine and for A List Apart. And he's also recently very much into Rust and serverless. And it's a pleasure to have him as our guest today. So please welcome Stefan Baumgartner. Hello, Stefan. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's the end of the week. It has been a busy week, and I'm looking forward to a relaxed weekend. So
perfect. So thanks for your time. Stefan, as this session is called Coffee with Developers, tell me, how much coffee do you drink and what type?
Oh, way too much. So usually I drink an espresso between every other meeting. And there are a ton of meetings right now. Okay. So this kind of increases my coffee consumption a lot. But yeah, so it depends on the time and it depends on the day. Usually Mondays it's about 10 espressi, and that can get higher. So and today I already had, I guess, about 6 or something. So
6, yeah, but it's still a long way. I mean, this session is recorded, but for people to know, currently it's around 1:40 p.m. So I think the 10 will be reached until the end.
Let's see. I try to stop after this session today, but I'm sure there will be 1 or 2. So it's always shots like this, like small cups.
Cool.
Just a shot. So
just without milk, without sugar, just the espresso.
Just black, without sugar, without milk. It's just it's more the ritual of going downstairs to the coffee machine, getting something, going up again, and then enjoying it over the course of the next couple of minutes or something.
So it's also kind of a bit of procrastination. Could it be?
I don't know. It's an intentional break. Let's put it like that.
Okay, let's put it like that. That's a good one. Okay, Stefan, as I said, thanks for joining us. I mean, for the audience to get to know you better, maybe you could tell us a bit about your first steps in software development, or actually how did you develop your passion for that, and maybe a bit about your career path. So who are you actually?
Who am I? The eternal question. So my start into software development and software engineering, I was very fortunate and very privileged to have a father who was very early into computers, assembling a home office. So we in the late 80s we had a free 86 machine at home with all the peripherals, and of course, since I was a kid, I was super interested in games, and I guess this is a story that you hear plenty of time. But it was not only that; it was also that I had a friend next door who was in a similar situation, and we spoke constantly about what can you do with a PC, what can you do with a computer, and he introduced me to things like Quick Basic, which was the most boring UI that you can imagine. It was a blue screen with white letters, but you were able to code instructions there, and we tried to recreate Pac-Man together. So we had a magazine with the QBasic programming listing, and we tried to port this 10-page programming listing into our QBasic editor and try to make it run and try to create our own Pac-Man game, because we were so into games. And at the end, after, I don't know, line 10,000 or something, we found out that QBasic and QuickBasic are totally different programming languages, and we didn't have the environment for that. So that was something. But that,
at what age was that?
It was about, I guess we were 9 or 10.
Okay, wow, that's pretty early.
Yeah. But that was the spark. That was the initial idea. And then we got hold on tools like Click and Play. I don't know if this is something that people still recognize, which was a game editor where you can put some with a graphical user interface. You could put some stuff on a screen, give it some behavior, like you have a physics of dropping down, or you're able to jump, and then you had almost like punctured cards, where you were able to set some flags to control the behavior across screens of that. And this was the earliest step into programming. And from that on, it just continued. It was then we created our own installers with Visual Basic for those games, and then we started doing web applications or websites for those games. And from that on, it was clear that we wanted to do something.
But this was then already in the 90s, right?
That was in the 90s already. Yeah, so that was in our teens, and from that on, it was just a segue into going to university, studying computer science there, realizing that it's not all games in computer science. So there are lots of topics.
Yeah. Then when you realize that it's not just about games, right? It was the same for me. Like, I mean, the passion comes with the games, but then you actually realize there's a much bigger world out there.
Absolutely. It turns out it's hardly ever about the games. So it's about all the other things.
The gaming industry is pretty huge, especially nowadays. Yeah, but back then, actually.
No, especially in Austria, that was you had to have put in a lot of effort to get recognized by the big brands or something to be able to develop games. And I guess it's better now with a huge rise of indie games that people in small groups are able to create fun and exciting games without having a big studio behind them.
Yeah.
But it was different times back then. It was 20 years ago or something. I don't know. It was.
And then maybe a small spoiler. I mean, you are very much into the front-end part of software development and web development, especially in your professional career. But you actually started kind of with a lot of low-level coding.
Absolutely, yeah. So the web stuff is something that always was there for some reason. So I started doing websites. I created my Fachbereichsarbeit, the one that you do when you do your final exams. Was on HTML, for example. But when I entered university, I found out web development and games is not something that you're supposed to earn money with. That was what I got, which was a stupid message. But for the, let's say, way younger audience that is watching us, maybe that just that I think that's true. So I mean, I think I'm a bit younger than you, but still also in my time, in school time, it was like, I mean, when you finish your studies and computer science and in Austria, then you basically can go work in some industrial companies. Exactly. That was
hardware level, embedded software engineering. So that's kind of the future and so on. And web development wasn't really a big thing.
It was especially after the .com bubble burst, so nobody gave a damn about the internet for that matter. And this led me into focusing on something that is kind of related to games, which was computer graphics for the medical sector. So visualizing CRTs, MRTs, and 3D visualizing them, trying to find stroke areas in the brain, visualizing them, visualizing the size and the reach of the stroke during a stroke. That was my master's thesis, for example. And it required the full palette from visualizing something, rendering 3D images, down to taking the actual data from the machine, which was not prepared in an image or something, just in a signal, that you were able to sequence and to collect in some sort of image, and try to do the first analysis based on that data. And this was the full spectrum,
Did you try to connect this with kind of games? Because I remember I finished HTL, that's kind of a technical education here in Austria. And basically you finish this school at the age of 18 or 19. And at the last year, you have some final project that you work on for the whole year. And one group in our school, I can remember very well, basically, and this was around 2006 or 2007, they actually worked on kind of a ping pong game with brainwaves. So you have kind of a head measuring some signals, and then basically after some training, but just 5 minutes or so, when you have this head on, and then you could really actually play ping pong with that. And I mean, that was 15 years ago. So
we never got to that. That would have been fun. So we did some some sort of early virtual reality games where you had a pen that gave you some haptic feedback, where you could feel some pushes against the wall or something, or against any object that was just there in virtual reality. And we tried to create a pool out of that. Like the pen is your pool stick, the cue, sorry, the pool. I'm so sorry, pool players. I'm sorry for not calling it cue. The pool stick, damn it. But taking that and actually playing pool with that, or snooker for that matter, and that was a fun project. It was very immersive. From you had the feeling you were standing in front of a pool table, but we didn't get the physics right. So if you pushed it from a very specific angle, it was like the solar system evolving around you, because suddenly all the balls were spinning around you and didn't stop. And we never got any farther.
I know some massive multiplayer online role-playing games that you could build around with that. But that's quite interesting. You kind of have been a pioneer, maybe too early in this industry.
Maybe so it was very bare bones back then, especially if you think about so it was lots of trial and error. There was not really a community around it, and you didn't have any exchange online. I guess this was the worst part of it. So the only thing that you got to actual material was by hoping to find somebody who was willing to share their stuff. Not only in terms of the medical stuff that we did. So we had a software running at the General Hospital in Linz that was actually used for analyzing strokes when they were happening, which is great. So this is where I said, okay, this is at least some impact from all the stuff that you did at university. But also we have the Ars Electronica Center in Linz. And there in the basement, there was all those tools and toys and virtual reality prototypes that you could play around with, but it was just prototypes. So there was nothing near something that you could use for the consumer market for that matter. It was way too early. Yeah.
And how did you then basically switch to doing more web development, especially then on the front end? Like
that was a leap of faith, basically. So I after my studies, after studying computer science, working in medical visualization, working in computer graphics, working in image processing, I left the research project for this whole stroke stuff and needed to look for another job, which was then in image processing for the industrial sector, like for car manufacturers and things like that. And during that time, I figured out that I got less and less interested in the whole image processing and visualization stuff, but I was really good at producing all the project websites, producing all the communication to the outside. And besides that, I was also running a very popular gaming website back then. So this is where it kind of comes full circle. I still had my passion for video games. And I was running, I don't know if anybody of you knows that, because it was hugely popular back then, but it was called SquareNet. It was about all the Final Fantasy games, Dragon Quest games, and it even we even got invited by Nintendo at some point in time, who wanted to collaborate with us. So this was kind of my wake-up call. It was like, so Nintendo called me to help me work on my passion project instead of me not being interested at all anymore in working with cars. And so I said, okay, let's try it like that. Let's take a break. Let's quit. Try to play around 1 or 2 months with the whole Nintendo project, which turned out quite well. And use this as some sort of way to get into web development full time.
And what was the project about? Like, did they need a website? Did they just, hey, Stefan, we need a website for Nintendo.com?
They needed an online community for a new game, for Dragon Quest 9, which was published by Nintendo, developed by Square Enix back then. But it was published by Nintendo, and they reached out to create an online community to help promote the game, help promote ideas, write walkthroughs, etc., charts, all the stuff that I was doing.
That's cool. And I mean, it's not that long ago, right? I mean, it's maybe 10 years, 12 years, something.
10 years, 12 years, something like that, yeah.
And imagine today, like if these studios and publishers and all, if they want to do some online marketing or whatever, they have big agencies. There is like millions of euros.
It's now it's a field of work, and back then they just looked for this one person who did it.
Just say, let's call Stefan.
Exactly. Fun thing is, it had nothing to do with actual developing or something. It was just creating an online community, producing content, publishing it on the internet, and it was for a moment I thought maybe I should leave the tech industry altogether and just focus on that, because I thought I was pretty good at it. But I used it as a segue into getting into the whole agency field, because agencies were big on getting digital during that time. They were looking for people in that area, and I kind of had, with my background in computer science and background in programming, and this one project for Nintendo, I applied as a what was it called? Conceptionist, I guess was the term back then. Like, I'm going to create digital projects for you, and if you don't think I can do that, let me code some PHP websites, because this is something where I know I can do that. And this was like my deal with them. Like, let's try out if I can do that, and if not, you have at least a developer for a couple of months.
So PHP was your programming language also back then. I mean, it's kind of funny that all of these people like you and me, like older generation, for the web development before it came really out to be what it is today, we all used PHP, and today, like I have the feeling everybody hates PHP. I mean, it's such a great language, you know.
But the thing is, I guess I used what was available back then, and I didn't think about any alternatives.
Absolutely.
And it was fun. I was able to create something, and you can hate any programming language that you like. That's a phrase. You can hate any programming language as you like.
Yeah, that's it. That's a quote. Maybe you can use it somewhere else.
But the thing is, I see, as long as it helps you create stuff and as long as people are productive with it, what's the point of hating it? You know, if you're not happy with it, choose something different. And there's a huge PHP community out there. Look at the whole stuff that's happening with Laravel. There's so many people being productive with it, creating great stuff, and I wouldn't hate on a programming language just because it's not my taste. For that matter, I don't like Java, and it's still one of the most popular languages out there.
Absolutely. I mean, we had our JavaScript Congress, virtual JavaScript Congress, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, end of November, and we had Laurie Voss doing the keynote, and he co-founded NPM, and he's working as a data analyst now at Netlify. And he had an interesting take on this discussion on this topic, because he said, okay, they were conducting a survey of, I think, thousands and tens of thousands of developers worldwide. And what they found out is actually the more programming language got adopted, the more people are using it, the more kind of, I mean, hate is a big word, but you know what I mean? Like the more it's becoming unpopular in the sense of that people don't like it, and then they find something new. And I mean, I'm very much into TypeScript. We're going to have a take on that as well later on. And then people, for example, say, JavaScript, I'm now a TypeScript developer, or let's try out Rust, or let's try out Go, and everything that is new is like cool, and everything that is old, like Java. I think Java is kind of called dead since almost its very beginning. And it's still one of the most popular languages.
So you have something popular if people start complaining about it. That's the best indicator for it.
Polarization, yes.
Absolutely, because people start using it, and the more people you reach, the more complainers become visible, and it's easier to complain than to like something, I guess.
Yeah, but I also understand
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I think Laurie is absolutely right in that regard. That if something is hugely and immensely popular, then haters start to appear. That's the natural course of things. But that doesn't diminish the popularity, I guess, and also not the way stuff is used. I think especially if you look at trends and something like that, especially in web development, there's this huge area of folks who are not invested in current trends, who are not invested in what's happening on the technology side, and who are still just creating jQuery and WordPress websites like they did 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
And as long as
that's fine.
Works,
absolutely, that's fine.
Yeah. And I think one point could also be like, when something gets more and more adopted, and then you try obviously to also kind of further improve it and build up on that. And then as for example with JavaScript, like 10 years ago you had JavaScript and then jQuery and Ajax a bit and so on. Now today I have thousands of frameworks, libraries, whatever tools built around that. And it becomes more and more and more complex. And then it's maybe also kind of more complicated to work with that. And then comes the new cool kid from the block around the corner. And it's kind of more easier to get into that. And maybe that's also a factor.
Absolutely. It's the same thing all over. So I remember back in the day, we compiled our JavaScript and CSS with Ant, which was a Java build tool. And we got so annoyed by it that we switched to Grunt. Nobody's talking about Grunt today, but we used it back then. And then Gaunt, and then we made through every trend because we with every technology, we reached a point where we were not happy with it anymore. And if you're trying to constantly improve yourself or your tool chains, then you end up with something like that. I guess that's also just a natural course of things.
Yeah. Okay, but let's get back to your career. So you actually, the Nintendo time was quite interesting, and then you started kind of doing some websites and PHP.
Yeah, exactly. So I was at this agency, and what I found out at the agency, this was one of the big revelations. So I tried to create cool websites there, but I found out that if you are with the right people, and if you have surroundings that support you, which was the case with the company that I was in back then, then you are able to really develop a sense for the stuff that you like and that you like doing. And it turned out it never was about creating content or publishing for that matter. It was always about the creating part of the website. And this is where I went full-time web development and invested myself immensely in that whole area. I said, okay, this is fun. I like that. I finally.
It really became a passion for you.
Yes. So I had the feeling that everything that I just used as a tool to express myself with all those projects that I had was not only just a tool, but was my profession. And I was able to develop my profession there, which is being a web developer, doing websites, doing frontend for that matter. So I never knew that people could be frontend developers until I got hired as one, because it was publishing HTML and CSS. Is that a job? I don't know. Isn't that just a side effect of a different job or something? So that was a big revelation for me back then. And and this was I don't know, fooled me the last decade or so.
What I find really cool is that from the very beginning you have been also kind of not just a member of the, let's call it, developer community, but also you tried to shape it yourself as well. So you have also organized conferences, I think, and you have been at meetups, and you have actually shared your knowledge and experience with others. You wrote articles and so on. How comes that? So was it just like, hey, I want to give something back, or I want to kind of make a name in the industry, or was it how does it come?
So neither nor. so that might come to as a surprise. So I could of course say, I want to give back to the community. No, actually not. It's much easier than that. So if people are getting something out of it, that's great. And I'm very happy if people are giving me feedback on the articles that they read and try to improve it together. So this is stuff that I love, and I'm super grateful for everybody who reads it and who finds who gets something out of it, no matter what it is. But it has a very egoistic reason why I'm publishing so much, which is that I need this as a way to comprehend things myself. So I never try to be an authority by publishing, let's say, about TypeScript. All my TypeScript blogs had a very egoistic reason for me trying to understand what's happening there. I need this to organize my brain in some way and to be able to create a bigger picture out of it. I also have this urge to write things down. And publish them. So publishing is more like the part of getting immediate feedback. If you publish something for free, it's great because you get feedback and know if you're right.
Okay, so it's about the feedback. So you learn also something, but it's
exactly
not just. I mean, like you're bringing me to some kind of a thesis, a conclusion. It's not only about the publishing. I think that maybe 90% of the questions that you are asking yourself, you answer yourself while you write it. It's kind of not rubber duck debugging, but kind of I write something and obviously learn it, but now I can publish it also.
I guess there are 10 times more articles that I've thrown away because during writing I found out that I'm on completely wrong track. And the stuff that I published, this is where I say my mental model got verified by what I've written.
But that's cool.
Yeah, so it's super egoistic, and I'm very sorry. So I'm sorry if I shattered any.
No, I think people can have takeaways from that. I mean, I have one book here from you, like it's Typescript in 50 lessons. It's very high quality. I mean, it's
thank you very much.
In terms of hardcover, but also content-wise.
Cool. This is the stuff that I can't verify. I always say the finishing, the packaging that Smashing has done is extraordinary, and I'm super happy that they did that with me. I never can say if the content is any good because it's as I said, it's just me trying to develop a mental model around TypeScript. But writing the book is a different process there. So especially with TypeScript, I hit the point where I thought, okay, I totally understand how everything is connected to each other within TypeScript. Like I'm prepared to adopt every upcoming change to the programming language because I understand the inner workings without ever reading any piece of source code, by the way. TypeScript source code, mine, of course. And I had the feeling that I need to write that down and publish it, not only to verify myself, but also to give other people the same path towards the same thinking, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, like to generate a common understanding of what we're talking about.
Especially TypeScript has had so many different views and so many different people coming to it from so many different angles. You have folks who did Java and C# the whole time and see a replacement for that on the client side, which it isn't. You see people who have written JavaScript for all their life and see something that is supposed to restrict them in the way they write, which it isn't. And I thought the perspective that I gained from learning so much about TypeScript can help other people getting to the same conclusion. And this is also why there are so many great TypeScript books out there. And I love them all. I've read them all. I own them all because I have behind the screen, I don't know, about 100 tech books that I collect.
And do you also read them or just collect?
Yeah, I read them. Not entirely. I just pick out the stuff that I like. But I read every one of them. And programming TypeScript from Boris Cherny with O'Reilly or Dan Vanderkam's Effective TypeScript is also with O'Reilly are fantastic books. And they tackle the topic of TypeScript from a certain angle. And I tried to tackle it from a different angle. One that is first suited to the way I think about it, and second also
what
suited to...
What is your key takeaway? Like, what is your key learning, your key takeaway?
It's tooling for JavaScript. It's your co-pilot when developing JavaScript. It's your immediate code review when doing JavaScript. This is also the reason why in the first chapter of the book, we are not writing any TypeScript per se. We are just writing JavaScript and trying to activate the powers underneath TypeScript to get better info out for JavaScript. This is also the claim that I do. If you've ever written JavaScript, not only for yourself, but for your colleagues, for coworkers, or for future you, because you have to get back to your own code in about a month's time or something, you will get something out of TypeScript because you are going to formalize your intents with the program code that you've written. So
it makes you a better developer as well.
It makes you a better developer. I'm pretty sure of it. And let's put it like that: you are allowed to be a much lazier developer because I reached the point where I can't keep mind maps of my software in my head anymore. Where I'm super happy if a tool like TypeScript can preserve that for eternity for me without me constantly thinking about it.
That's a good point. This could also be a quote, maybe like TypeScript makes you a better developer.
Yeah, maybe.
So second quote for today.
and with that is also the reason why I've decided to write it with Smashing Magazine. First of all, I like the people. I love them. We've worked so much in the past on all the projects that we did, and I think the typical Smashing audience can benefit most from that. This is why we decided to work together. So Smashing is not going to publish a tech book if it's not a perfect match on their audience and on the strategy, which means that it has to cater towards web developers. And the second thing is those contents need to be long lasting. So we've also written a book that is not, just for version 4 and then next year you get the second edition because so many things have changed. No, we stripped away a ton of things. We focused on the type system and how the type system works under the hood by still delivering real world examples. So I guess this was the hardest part, describing mechanics of a type system while providing real world examples that you can actually apply and use. But the stuff that is in the book is there as long as TypeScript exists. I'm pretty sure of it. Those things are not going to change.
That's good. That's good. And do you plan any new books? You have also a second book published?
So I've
frontend tooling, right?
That one here, exactly. Frontend tooling. That was the first one. So and that was funny because I publish everything that I do, and I also published a lot of things about Grunt and Gulp because those were the things that bugged me back then. And then an acquisition editor of Manning came to me and said, "Hey, the stuff that you're publishing there is great. Do you want to write a book out of that?" And I thought, blue-eyed, let's take all my blog articles, repackage them, rewrite them, and there you go. Nah, that's not how writing a book is.
And how long does it take to write such a book?
So the actual writing time, I couldn't say because I've written basically any free minute of the day if I had the chance. But from inception to finish, every book took about 2 years. I spent with every book a lot more time in creating the table of contents, creating a structure, creating a narrative, creating examples for it, trying to connect the dots between the first page and the last page, than the actual writing of text. The actual writing of text was pretty easy actually. So with the Gulp book, it has 10 chapters, which means it was 10 weekends at my in-laws, where my family spent time with their grandparents and parents, and I was locked up in my partner's old bedroom. The first day on Saturday, I just watched Netflix, and on Sunday, I've written an entire chapter.
Okay.
But yeah. That was the spook.
Let's get back again to your career. So now you have been I think 6 or 7 years at the same company.
Yes.
Dynatrace.
Yes.
So maybe for the ones who are not familiar, what is Dynatrace about?
So we are creating what we call a software intelligence platform, which means that we are able to analyze weaknesses or potential performance problems within your code. We are out there for, I don't know, 15 years or something, around that time.
And you're headquartered here in Austria, I think in Linz, with an office in Vienna and so on. But it's basically a big company, it's one of the world leaders for observability and monitoring and so on.
Exactly, and we've grown exponentially in the last couple of years.
How many people work there?
I guess we are now between 2,000 and 3,000 people in total, and I'd say 700 to 800 people are in Austria.
Okay, cool. And
it might have changed.
Are in software development, or let's say in the IT product?
So everything that happens in Austria is software engineering. About half, let's say. I guess 50% of every employee in Dynatrace is a software engineer or is related to software development.
And you started there again, as a web developer, a front-end developer?
Yeah. So this was actually the segue. So I've been with the agency for 5 years or something, and led a team, worked with clients, did great projects. But I wanted to have something that is a lot more steady. than working from project to project. And this was when Dynatrace just reappeared again. So Dynatrace was created. Lots of my friends worked at Dynatrace. Then they were bought by CompuWare. Then CompuWare was bought to extract Dynatrace again. And then they started to work on the new project. And I applied there as a web developer, like doing the marketing website, like working just on this one project. So, okay, this might be a nice way of creating, quote unquote, the best website that I could, because I have the opportunity to focus entirely on one page rather than project to project to project. And this is how I got into Dynatrace. And with the environment and with the team that I was working with, we quickly started to branch out the whole web page idea into, maybe we should create a design system to make it easier for UI developers to adopt new UIs. And maybe we can help with, because we were a Java shop back then, maybe we can help with selecting a JavaScript framework so people can write UIs faster than to do with the Java solution that they had right now. And so from that starting point, we and the entire team actually evolved year after year into more or less some core teams within the company that provide the backbone of web development for our software, which was nice. And the funny thing is, I was looking for something more steady, and I ended up not having a single year that was the same, because one of the great things with Dynatrace is that if you want, you can develop yourself from one position to the other pretty easily.
Recently, you kind of moved a bit away from the software engineering. I mean, at the end, like, you're now product architect, I think, since 1 year or since 2020. We'll come to that one. But what was your kind of last software engineering role there? Like,
I was the team lead of the design system and web experience team. And I was a lot into people management, but also, doing already some architecture stuffs for all the developers, and trying to. So we worked with a lot of Jamstack projects before Jamstack was a topic.
And before it was called Jamstack.
Exactly, and this was my last thing, actually. So we even create our own serverless platform based on Node.js, which is not serverless like just paying for what you need, but developing like you would develop serverless. So this was our big last project that we did together before I segued into.
Now you move to the product architect role. And how different is that? Like, what are you like doing now? What's your current challenges or?
So one cool thing is the product architecture team within Dynatrace is relatively small as compared to the rest of the company, which means that we are around 50 people or something, which is a lot of people.
But the size of a small company.
Compared to 1,000 developers, it's relatively small, and we specialize in certain technical topics to provide guidance for all the other project groups that we have, or for all the other roles that we have. Like, we are the sparring partner for product management. Product management thinks about a feature. We think about how it can best realized with the means that we have at hand and with the long-term strategy. It's not just like we want to push that out, but also, is this sustainable in that way? Might there be a better way coming up in 2 or 3 months? Or how is it supposed to be relevant for the next year or something? And this is a dialogue with product management, and I have the dialogue with the developers where we where we do some ping pong in the same area. They want to realize that feature or a certain feature, and also how can we do that sustainably? How can we do that for long-term goals, which involves a lot of drawing graphs and drawing Miro boards and writing articles and communicating. But thankfully, we are also still coding a lot. So we have this.
Wanted to ask, do you still
absolutely
code?
It's super important. It's one of the mantras that we have within the product architecture team. You can't make technical decisions without knowing the tools. So even our chief product architect, who has been with Dynatrace for a long time and has made some of the most important decisions for our product, he takes the time once a month, detaches himself from the ongoing task, tries to realize a project with the current stack that we have, tries to work with our platform, tries to think about use cases, etc., and not only on paper but actually with actual code. And this has a huge influence on how we do things. So, especially on choosing technology, especially on working with certain technology, just because something looks good on paper and you can do a plus, minus, pro and contra list doesn't mean that it's the most suitable technology for your need. You need to experience it to finally understand what's happening.
And I mean, for you, was it planned that did you have the intention to kind of, become, go into another role, to become a product architect and so on, to do more people management? Because what I see with a lot of people, also in a lot of developers and friends and so on, like they kind of, code, have a programming job, let's say, software developer, and then at some point, obviously, they want to go a further step in their career, become a team lead or work on the product. And then they realize, okay, this people management stuff and so on, it kind of takes, is so different because it's way less technical. It's more people management, more business related and so on. And then they kind of start missing the actual coding.
Absolutely, that's a very good point. So I've been team lead twice in my career. Once at Dynatrace and once at the agency where I were. And I did it because I kind of could. I don't know. It might sound way too posh than it actually is, but it kind of came to me, and I think I was good at it. But with the team lead at Dynatrace, I also figured out that it's not only about being a team lead and being a good team lead, but also knowing when you shouldn't be a team lead anymore. And I kind of had the feeling that, I worked with a fantastic team, people that I really appreciate working with, that are fantastic, that are excellent in what they are doing. And I had the feeling that I'm more an obstacle for them than helping them at this point in time.
Because also kind of an achievement maybe at the end, right?
Maybe, yeah. I like to see it from that angle.
Then let's see it like
that. Because they just had one step to go after that, which was usually going into being a team lead. Or at Dynatrace, we developed a lot of roles that are more focused on experience and on actual work that you do, rather than being a next step in a ladder or something. And this is something that I want to go into in just a moment. But for me, it was clear, okay, to make it possible for the others to flourish, I need to get myself out of the equation. And then I was talking to a lot of people within Dynatrace. So what would be the best way on how I can help Dynatrace? And with a year break where I was trying to speed up a slow JavaScript build, I went into product architecture because the role of JavaScript, the role of serverless became increasingly important for us, and I could introduce my experience there. And ever since, a lot of stuff has changed. So the folks at Dynatrace really tried to find a way on how you can be promoted, can express express your experience through a job title. Where the thing that you do on the job or in your field of expertise you can still grow within that area without needing to switch into people management.
And that's maybe at the end, because that would have been my next question. Like, especially today, people are way more often switching jobs and so on. And you've stayed for 7 years at one company here, which is maybe already a bit unusual for many, especially the young people. But that's basically, you could actually say you switched your job also in the last 7 years. But
so I had 5 jobs in the last 7 years.
So just the same company paid you the salary, but you switched jobs. That's interesting.
That's what I did, yeah. So, and this is one of the benefits of working at a company that size. You have opportunities to develop yourself, and
that's cool. And I think in engineering, in the engineering world, or in software development, it is kind of funny to see this whole topic on career paths, because usually if you're, let's say, going into some business related topics, let's say you're you want to be a sales guy, then you kind of have a concrete career, or it's easier to have a concrete career path in mind, because you could start as, I don't know, let's say pre-sales, and then you become a sales manager, and then you become a senior sales manager, then you're a key account manager, and then, I don't know, like you go to business development at some point, whatever. So it's kind of, actually kind of where you could be heading. But because we have such a how do you say, such big steps in technology and in software development, you actually couldn't say like, hey, I'm now a software developer, I'm going out of the university, and you maybe could choose an industry, but you couldn't say like, okay, I want to become a team lead, but actually you become a product architect, or you stay as a software engineer, or it's pretty hard to kind of sit down as a young person and draw down a career path, because things change in 3 years. Like new roles come up, and it's kind of agile. Like you start somewhere, and then in 10 years you end somewhere else, without
Absolutely.
planning it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm very happy that the folks at Dynatrace, I guess, they spent more than a year on working on that, and it's very influenced from stuff that you see at Google or Microsoft or AWS or whatever, where you have the typical software engineer, senior software engineer. Everybody can do that. Everybody does that. But then you go on to be a principal engineer, maybe a senior principal engineer, where the stuff that you do expands, communicating with others, but also the expertise that you have in coding. But you're still staying with your known field of engineering, but you're just expanding the possibilities there. You don't suddenly get an entire new field of work. You just expand yourself and your possibilities, which is super nice. And this is also the same. So usually you say, okay, once you are at the senior software stage, you have two choices. You're becoming a software architect, you're becoming a team lead. And this was how it was back in the day. I'm now a product architect, not because it was the next step after software engineer, but because the entire work of organizing technology, inventing stuff with people, writing about it, discussing it, and trying to implement it myself, and always trying to understand the upcoming technology is much, much more like me than actually realizing a concrete project. And I guess everybody is thankful for me not producing production code anymore, because I'm always the one person who committed directly to main. and people hate that.
Do you have a comment at least?
So my commit messages were very cryptic at that time, and they also didn't like it, and I never did any tests. So I'm the worst person in that regard. I'm super sorry.
Another topic. I mean, we talked about your career, how you become a web developer. Now your actual role. We talked a bit about TypeScript. Then there is another thing you are currently into it, Rust. For the ones who don't know, it's a pretty young programming languages. I think the first stable release was in 2015, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
It's very popular. I mean, now we talk again about popularity. Many people kind of jump on the train. And maybe for the ones who are not familiar, you want to explain a bit, what is it about? What can you do with it?
So the fun thing for me is that with Rust, I'm coming full circle again, because now I'm into systems programming again. The stuff that I did 15 years ago.
Back to the beginning, yeah.
Exactly, but it needed Rust for that to happen, because Rust is a system programming language. So it was designed to be an alternative to C and C++. But that doesn't do it justice, actually.
Why does a web developer need that? Or why do you need that?
So for me, it was something to play around with in the beginnings. And then I figured out, wait, I'm actually able to do things with it that I wasn't able to do before. Especially when you need performance, especially when you need safety. So you have one of the big features of Rust is that it guarantees your memory safety without a garbage collector. So if you are writing, I don't know, an object in JavaScript or having a string in JavaScript or whatever, there's a runtime looking at which stuff you're currently using. And if it realizes some of this memory isn't used anymore, it throws it away. even Go is doing it like that. And this was one of the big benefits that we got, when Java was released. It was like, a garbage collector. Can this be done? This has just been in academic papers and
this
not,
whole memory
not in the real world.
Topic, I can remember that very well in school too.
Exactly. Then we were 25 years on that bandwagon of having managed memory until we figured out, well, in today's times, it's actually needed to have unmanaged memory, or let's say like that, managed memory without a garbage collector again. Especially if you think about having lots of smaller programs instead of one big program, and those smaller programs need to run fast, need to run efficient, need to run with the optimized resources. Then it's not just suitable to run JavaScript or Java or whatever for that matter. And this is where Go comes into play, but much more Rust. Which gives you the opportunity to write like you would write it with a managed or with a programming language like Java or C# or whatnot, but have the guarantees that you have memory safety and performance, and you don't need to do any trade-offs. And this is what got my interest. It's a very complicated language, so you really need to spend some time learning it, which was also nice for me because I kind of needed something that has this continuity when I tried to learn it. And then I realized...
Did you have some challenge that you wanted to solve? Because usually, people learn something new when they want to solve something. Or did you just say, hey,
just curiosity. Just curiosity.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. But once I got the hang of it, I suddenly started to see perfect use cases for it. And this got me into the entirety of developing JavaScript language runtimes on my own. This is where I combined the whole thing. So this is more a hobby project. This is remotely related to what I work with, but this is more a hobby project where I say, okay, if you know Dino, which is the sequel to Node.js, it's written in Rust. And they provided some excellent bindings between the JavaScript world and the Rust world. And with that, I suddenly can do stuff that I wasn't able to do before, like creating my own version of JavaScript out there, which is nice.
Okay, that sounds cool. And I mean, I know just from the blockchain world, it's kind of heavily used also in for some blockchain applications and so on. I
guess for the same reasons. You have memory safety without, but still having the performance of a natively compiled language.
Fast.
But I'm not into blockchain and that stuff, so I can't answer you anything about it because I don't know. I'm getting easily annoyed by that. I'm super sorry.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's talk
about that. But then let's maybe kind of round it a bit up. I think we're talking since around, I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, whatever. Doesn't hurt. It's fun. So if you want to add if you can add a couple of minutes, would be
sure. So I have some time left. Yeah. Absolutely.
One or two other topics so you have been heavily in web development over the last, let's say, 10 years, and I mean you're really an expert on that, so let me say that. Do you see any let's call it trends? Do you see any kind of trends for modern web development that basically will be there or will be important for us over the next 1, 2, 3 years?
So what we are going to see is a lot more usage of Rust within web development because it's going to solve a couple of problems that we have with today's web development. One is tooling. Every tooling that is written in JavaScript is great, but it's slow or very fragile because it needs a lot of dependencies that you need to manage. Like the typical weekly email from Dependabot that your Node.js dependencies are outdated and you need to do something with it. And this is why we're going to see Rust there. And we're going to see Rust there because it's the prime language for writing WebAssembly, and we're going to see a lot of WebAssembly.
That's an interesting point. So you think that it's around for a while. Do you think WebAssembly will get more adopted?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess as it is with every technology, so WebAssembly is a great standard, and it's the usage of it or what people are doing with it is fantastic and mind-blowing.
Could, for example, JavaScript at some point be totally, let's say, exchanged?
No, I don't think so. I think they need to live together. You need WebAssembly to work on stuff that you can't reasonably do with JavaScript, but you still need JavaScript to, first of all, provide an easy and elegant language to create things, to talk to websites, and to write the actual applications. But some of the heavy lifting is going to happen in WebAssembly. WebAssembly is going to allow us the big promise that we got 25 years ago when folks started to write Java applets, where it is like you can have an entire application running within the browser. And we see that the people are porting Photoshop to WebAssembly.
When you say Java applets, I kind of get a flashback. Like, yes, there
so
like Java applets and Flash.
It gives me the shivers. But this is, I guess, finally a way that might be sustainable. And I said people are porting Photoshop into the browser, like the real world Photoshop. But the UI will still be written in JavaScript. And you still need the JavaScript is going to evolve into this ubiquitous UI language. But the application base is going to be something different.
But do you think JavaScript will be kind of, I mean, right now you do JavaScript, you develop with JavaScript and you call yourself JavaScript developer, for example, and so on, or front-end developer, but you actually work with JavaScript. But do you think that JavaScript as JavaScript could at some point become something like, jQuery? You just use it, but it's not really, it's not in your mind. You're a TypeScript developer, you do WebAssembly and so on, and JavaScript is just like, we will forget about it, kind of.
I don't know. It's tough because that's a tough question because nobody expected JavaScript to be so popular as it is. And this is also why I can't expect any other programming language to take its part, because you never know. Right now, I think as long as web development or publishing on the web or having applications running on the web. I mean, we are now in a web browser doing a video call and recording it at the same time. Exactly. Who would have thought it a couple of years ago? JavaScript is going to play a big part of it. And also, if you think of having
1 year ago, who thought that 1 year ago?
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. And for that matter, this is one side. The other side is that JavaScript is still a very friendly language for entry-level programmers. You are able to do stuff quickly. You are able to do stuff easily. And we are going to get more and more developers, and they need a good programming language to start with. And that's either, I don't know, Python is on the rise again, but also maybe JavaScript.
That's true, but if you think a bit deeper about that, like at some point, it will not be sufficient enough if you just know JavaScript, because, when you and I started to call ourselves developers, we kind of, let's say, did a bit of HTML and CSS. And I mean, let's not talk about that if that are programming languages or not. Okay, it's not. But you could do something with it. You could still do a static page. I remember my parents at the restaurant still have, and I did in HTML, CSS. I did a static web page, and that was cool. Today you don't think about that. You don't say it's HTML developer or whatever. As a front-end developer, and actually then you have all of these kind of stacks and whatever. And that was kind of my point, that it will not be enough to just JavaScript. And when you say the beginners, yes, they will have kind of to learn some syntax and so on, but actually they will not be able to do anything with it just at its own.
I don't know. I think you can do plenty already with JavaScript, and so I think it will still have some relevance. But I also think that if you want to develop yourself into whatever area that there is, be always open to learn something new and something else. So this is something that has guided me throughout my entire career. I had a couple of things that I was sticking to, but I never shied away from looking into other things. And if this is a programming language, then it's a programming language. If this is something else, then let's be it something else. I guess this is everybody to decide on their own what they really like. But it can be a programming language, and it always helps to know another programming language. It changes how you think about your current tools. And especially using now Rust, or I developed a little bit of Python and Go as well in the last couple of years, has changed my view on JavaScript a lot. Namely, that I try to avoid JavaScript tooling as much as I can, except TypeScript. So I'm only using TypeScript at the moment as my only compiler that I have. I'm having maybe ES-Build to package my JavaScript bundles if I need to.
That's what I meant. Like you need JavaScript to use TypeScript actually. So that's kind of what I was referring to. But okay, you said like Rust is one big thing. WebAssembly is a big thing. What else? Kind of serverless. I know that you are kind of also into serverless a lot.
Yeah. So we are going to see a resurgence of server-side applications. This is something that we're definitely going to see. We kind of moved away from that, like, oh no, let's do Jamstack, just publish HTML and write a couple of functions maybe, but let's keep it mostly on the client side. And there's no definite answer for where do you put your stuff, on the client, on the server, which means that we're going to see an increased number of use cases that need server-side code. And I assume that this code will run in a serverless environment because it's the most sustainable thing to do. For that matter, we are also going to see a big increase in JavaScript language runtimes. So basically, it was the browser and Node back then, but we also have Deno there already. We have Cloudflare workers, and we are going to see a lot more because it becomes increasingly easy to do something like that. And you can tackle very specific use cases with that. Especially look at Cloudflare workers. It's one of my most favorite serverless platforms out there. It's very tailored to one use case, which is, oh, you have a response. Let me change that before you go out with it. You have a scriptable Nginx, if you will. And this is fantastic. And this is one of the technologically most advanced and most elegantly implemented solutions for that problem. And just a teaser of what we are going to see in the upcoming years. So that's I guess my predictions.
So that's the three things. So if someone wants to kind of start with something that is going to be in high demand, Rust, WebAssembly, and serverless.
So the thing is with Rust,
always we have, of course, in combination with other stuff. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And especially with Rust, we have not reached the point yet where we annoy people. So now it's a good time to be an early adopter before everybody's disillusioned with it. Yeah. But this will surely come. So there's so much drive now in that area, especially from huge companies, and the stuff that they're doing with Rust is phenomenal. That we are going to see an increase of usage, an increase of developers, and we're also going to see a lot of people starting to hate on it.
Yeah, and also like when you say increase of developers, what is a developer? I mean, a big hype or trend. I don't think it's a hype. It's there, like this whole no code and low code solutions out there, like things like Webflow or whatever. It just you don't really need to code a lot, but you still kind of could actually have the same result as if you would code it. So I think this kind also could be something that maybe not for the, let's call it true or real developers, but I think it will help to get more people into the industry, into development, into basically making products. For example, all these, let's say marketing people, marketing managers and so on. Now they are able to kind of also build the websites, even if they are not coding it really. So maybe that's also something that we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. Actually, so the thing is, if you look closely at it, this has been around forever. So I remember I did my first website in Microsoft front page.
I hope you will not say this, but
no, but that was my start until I reached the point of view source, where I thought, okay, that's how it looks like, the stuff that I write there in a Word kind of fashion.
And then you saw Dreamweaver.
Yeah, then I did a lot of, absolutely. Dreamweaver was nice as well. And this can just be, so in the best case, it's a segue for people to become developers. And I don't know. I don't like the concept of being a true developer, a real developer, or something. Because if you're producing code and publishing it, then you're a developer.
It's about the result at the end.
Exactly, and if we get more people to produce more results, the better.
Absolutely.
There will always be a place for people who doing quote unquote the hard work of writing every line of code themselves. But
I mean, someone has to do this, program these tools as well.
Exactly. And who codes the no code,
Actually, yes, absolutely. I mean, this is the kind of the first questions. And like when I was going to school, and then my back then girlfriend, still my wife now, asked, you're programming now, but kind of who tells the computer that what you are saying the computer is? Then here's some machine and some assembler code and so on. This is how it works. Yeah, but who tells the computer that this assembler stuff that you are doing there and the microchip? Who? I don't know. Someone did it.
Absolutely, yeah.
You cannot know everything. Like, let's come slowly to an end. It has been a super interesting discussion, but we are kind of way over time. Maybe for the end, like, have you tried out like GitHub Copilot or something? What do you think about that?
I'm signed up for it. I haven't tried it to an extent where I thought, okay, wow, this is cool. I just played around with it a little bit. It's nice. I like it. It's some interesting concepts on how we're going to develop in the future and how we're going to change stuff in the future. And one more tool in our belt never can.
And still, there is someone who is building it, right? So still, What do you said you play video games? So what else do you do in your
No, I don't play any video games anymore. I completely stopped that.
Okay,
I don't have any time for that, sadly. So no, I'm
obviously like writing books, being a product architect at Dynatrace, going and talk with me and at other conferences and so on. Like
running conferences, Rust, running meetups, learning Rust. Yeah, it's not a lot of time. I have a family, it's and I try to spend as much time with the family that I can.
Let's not forget about that. And do you write something new? Like, are we going to expect some new book from you to come out? Or?
I'm not actively writing on a new book, but I also have to say that I maybe bought 1 or 2 domains.
Okay.
And I just renewed one of them. So, so the thing is, after the first book, I said I'm never going to write another. And then came the urge of writing another. And I'm at the point right now where I feel the same itch. So maybe in 2 years of time there will be another book, because it takes 2 years.
Like also interesting because we talked about GitHub Copilot and so. I mean, there is like tools like Copy AI or something like who are, you know what I mean, like
computer write me a book.
Yes, just kind of tell some context and what you want to say, and at the end, I mean, at some point we will be there definitely.
Yeah.
Just that we don't forget. I mean, people should definitely visit your blog. It's fatblog.eu. And
the second worst name that I've ever chosen.
Yeah, we'll come to that. And the second thing is people should really not just, subscribe to WeAreDevelopers and follow us on Twitter and so on, but they should really also follow you on Twitter and your handle.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Your handle is on the screen, but it's also published as a podcast. So your handle is at DDPRRT. So what's that about?
That's Dead Parrot, which is, if you know Monty Python, that's one of the most famous sketches. And I was looking for a name and I just couldn't think of any. But Monty Python was huge when I signed up, or at least for me. So that's Dead Parrot. That's very short for Dead Parrot, because the actual Dead Parrot with all the vowels was not available anymore, and I kind of stuck with it, And Fatblog stands for Front End Technology Talk.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
now we got this as well. So make sure to follow Stefan. He's really a great guy.
Follow Dead Parrot on Fatblog.
Yes, exactly. Stefan, you have been a wonderful guest.
Thank you for having me. That was fun.
No, thanks for taking the time. I think that basically afterwards you can now have your 7th espresso of the day.
Oh yeah, I need it.
I wish you, because we have now the mid of December, when we do this recording. I wish you nice holidays, Merry Christmas, a good New Year.
Thank you very much.
And
you too.
Also, I'm definitely sure that we will meet again in the next year
Yeah,
for
cool.
some Devon
Great.
or other conference. So
Great.
thanks and see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.